A woman takes her 19-year-old daughter to the doctor's office. The doctor greets them and says, "All right, Mrs. Jones, what seems to be the problem today?" The mother answers with concern in her voice, "It's about my daughter, Darla. She's been having these odd food cravings lately. She's been gaining some weight, and almost every morning, she feels quite sick." The doctor nods and proceeds to give Darla a thorough medical examination. After completing the examination, the doctor turns to the mother and says, "Well, Mrs. Jones, I'm not quite sure how to say this, but it looks like your daughter Darla is approximately 4 months pregnant." The mother is shocked and exclaims in disbelief, "Pregnant? How can that be possible? She's never been alone with any man. Isn't that right, Darla?" Darla replies, "Yes, mother, that's true. I've never even had a kiss with a man." The doctor, puzzled by this revelation, walks over to the window and just stares outside, deep in thought. Several minutes pass in silence, with the mother and daughter both looking confused and concerned. Finally, the mother, unable to contain her curiosity any longer, asks, "Doctor, is there something unusual going on outside that you're looking at?" The doctor turns back from the window and answers, "No, nothing unusual out there. It's just that the last time a situation like this occurred, a bright star appeared in the eastern sky, and 3 wise men came walking over the hilltop. I'll be damned if I'm going to miss it this time." A gentleman was involved in a really bad car crash, and unfortunately, he suffered a terrible injury where his manhood was severely damaged. When he was being treated, the doctors told him that thanks to the advances in modern medicine, they could reconstruct his manhood, but there was a catch. His insurance wouldn't cover the operation because it was seen as a cosmetic procedure. The doctor explained the costs to him. "It'll be $3,500 for a small size, $6,500 for a medium one, and $14,000 if you want a large one." Naturally, the man thought he might prefer either the medium or the large option. However, the doctor suggested that he should discuss it with his wife before making such a big decision. Heeding the doctor's advice, the man called his wife and explained the situation and the different options they had, along with their respective costs. After a while, the doctor returned to the room and noticed that the man looked quite sad and disheartened. Curious, the doctor asked him, "So what did you and your wife decide after discussing?" The man, looking rather downcast, replied, "She'd rather have a new kitchen." A man strolls into a bar and announces, "Please give me a beer." The bartender, noticing something peculiar in his speech, remarks, "It seems like you have a significant issue with stuttering." The man quickly responds, No, I'm not kidding about my request." The bartender shares a personal story. "You know, I used to have a stutter too, but my wife found a way to cure it. One afternoon she gave me oral sex 3 times in a row, and ever since then, my stuttering stopped." The man listens and says, "That's really interesting to hear." About a week later, the same man returns to the bar and stutters, Could I please get a beer?" The bartender, a bit puzzled, asks him, "Didn't you try the solution I told you about?" The man answers, I really did, but it just didn't help with my stutter. But I have to admit, you'd have a very lovely home." A married couple decides they want to learn how to play golf, and so they arrange for lessons with a professional at a nearby country club. Excited about the prospect, the husband and wife meet the golf pro, and all of them head out to the driving range to start their lesson. The husband is up first. He takes a swing at the golf ball and manages to hit it a decent 100 yards. The golf pro watches and then gives a piece of advice. "Not too shabby, but try holding the golf club as tightly as you would hold your wife's breasts." Taking this advice to heart, the husband adjusts his grip and gives it another go. This time, his swing sends the ball flying an impressive 300 yards. The golf pro is impressed and compliments him. "Excellent shot." Now it's the wife's turn. She takes her stance and hits the ball, but it only travels a short 30 yards. The golf pro observes and then suggests, "That was a good try, but how about holding the club with the gentleness you would use when holding your husband's manhood?" The wife nods, adjusts her grip, and takes another swing. However, this time the ball just rolls a mere 10 yards. The golf pro then adds, "Not bad, but now try taking the club out of your mouth to hit the ball." In a moment of strong determination, a man decided to challenge himself by giving up sex for the period of Lent. His wife, although not entirely excited about the idea, agreed to support him in his decision. The first 3 weeks passed easily for the man. However, as time went on, resisting temptation became increasingly difficult. Seeing her husband struggle, the wife decided to help by making herself less appealing before bed. She put on her most unattractive nightwear and even chewed garlic to make sure her breath wasn't inviting. As the final weeks of Lent approached, the challenge became almost unbearable for the husband. To help him stick to his commitment, the wife started locking her bedroom door at night and asked her husband to sleep on the couch. Finally, Easter morning arrived, marking the end of Lent. Early in the morning, the husband excitedly knocked on the bedroom door where his wife was still sleeping. He playfully said, "Knock, knock, guess who it is?" The wife, still half asleep, replied, "I know it's you." The husband said, "Guess what I want?" The wife, aware of what the end of Lent meant, responded, "I can guess what you're looking for." The husband said, "But guess what I'm knocking with?" In a quaint little village, there lived an elderly woman who had never married. Despite her advanced years, she had maintained her virginity throughout her life, a fact of which she was immensely proud. As she grew older, she became aware that her time on earth was drawing to a close. With this in mind, she approached the local undertaker to make a specific request for her future tombstone. She wanted it to bear a special inscription that read, "Born a virgin, lived as a virgin, died as a virgin." Eventually, the time came when the old woman passed away peacefully. The undertaker remembered her request and instructed his workers to engrave her chosen words onto her tombstone. However, the workers, who tended to be a bit on the lazy side and saw the task as too tedious, decided to take a shortcut. They thought the inscription was too long and overly detailed for a tombstone. So in an attempt to simplify the task while capturing the essence of the woman's life, they opted for a much shorter inscription. They simply engraved, "Returned unopened." An American businessman found himself on a trip in Japan for work-related matters. During his stay, he decided to indulge in some local pleasures and ended up hiring a local companion for the night. They spent the entire night together, and during their time, the woman repeatedly exclaimed, "Fujifu, Fujifu," which the businessman interpreted as a sign of her enjoyment. The following day, the businessman had arranged to play a round of golf with some of his Japanese business partners. As luck would have it, he managed to hit a hole-in-one, a rare and impressive feat in golf. Remembering the word from the night before and thinking it was an expression of excitement, he excitedly shouted, "Fujifu," hoping to share his joy and impress his Japanese colleagues. However, instead of the impressed reaction he was expecting, one of the Japanese business partners looked at him with a confused expression. He said, "No, you got the right hole." An Israeli doctor proudly boasted about the advancements in medical science in his country, saying, "In Israel, our medical achievements are so remarkable. We can remove a kidney from one individual, transplant it into another, and in just 6 weeks, the patient is healthy enough to start looking for a job." Then a German doctor responded with his own country's achievement. "That's quite good, but in Germany, we've gone further. We can take a lung out of one person, place it in another, and within 4 weeks, the patient is out and about, actively seeking employment." A Russian doctor then joined the conversation with a claim about his country's medical prowess. "That's impressive, but let me tell you about Russia. Our medicine is incredibly advanced. We can take half of a person's heart, transplant it into another individual, and in as little as 2 weeks, both of them are fit enough to start job hunting." Not to be outdone, an American doctor said, We took out an asshole out of Texas, put it in the White House, and half the country will be looking for work tomorrow." A young boy approached his father with a curious question. "Dad, can you explain to me what politics is?" The father, eager to simplify a complex topic for his son, said, "Sure, son, I'll do my best to make it simple. You can think of me as capitalism because I earn the money for our family. Your mom manages all of our expenses, so she's like the government. We both look after your well-being, so you represent the people. Our nanny, she's hardworking and helps us a lot, so let's think of her as the working class. And your little brother, he's the future of our family. Keep this in mind and see if it helps you understand." The boy went to bed pondering over his dad's explanation. In the middle of the night, he was awakened by the crying of his baby brother. Concerned, he went to check on him and found that his brother needed a diaper change. He went to his parents' bedroom to inform his mom, but found her deeply asleep. Not wanting to disturb her, He decided to seek help from the nanny. However, he found the nanny's room door locked. Curiously, he peeped through the keyhole and saw his dad in the room with the nanny. Confused and unsure what to do, he eventually went back to his bed. The next morning, the father, remembering their conversation from the previous day, asked his son, "So, did you think about what politics is?" The boy replied with newfound insight, "Yes, Dad, I think I've figured it out. It's like this. Well, while capitalism is screwing the working class, the government is sound asleep, the people are being ignored, and the future is indeed shit." A woman visits a gynecologist's office, appearing quite anxious. She refuses to disclose the nature of her issue to the receptionist, insisting only on the urgency of seeing a doctor. After spending a considerable amount of time in the waiting room, she finally gets called in for her appointment. The doctor greets her and inquires, "All right, my dear lady, can you please tell me what seems to be troubling you?" The woman hesitantly begins to explain, "You see, doctor, my husband has this uncontrollable habit of gambling. He gambles away every bit of money he can lay his hands on. So to keep some money safe from him, I had this somewhat unusual idea. I had $500, and I thought the best place to hide it would be, well, inside my body. But now I'm facing a bit of a predicament because I can't retrieve it." The doctor, trying to maintain a professional demeanor, responds, "There's no need to be nervous. Believe it or not, I've encountered various unusual cases in my career." He then asks her to get ready for an examination. As she prepares and he dons his gloves, he looks at her and asks, "Before we proceed, I just have one question. What am I looking for? Bills or loose change?" There was a construction worker working on the third floor of a building that was still being built. He realized he needed a handsaw to continue his work, but he didn't want to go all the way down to the ground floor to fetch it himself. He saw one of his co-workers on the ground and tried shouting to him, but the distance and noise at the construction site made it impossible for his voice to carry that far. Thinking quickly, the worker on the third floor decided to use hand signals to communicate. He first pointed to his eyes, symbolizing I, then pointed to his knees to signify need. Finally, he mimed the action of using a handsaw with his hand, moving it back and forth. He was confident that his gestures were clear and that his co-worker would understand his request. However, the response he got was not what he expected. The worker on the ground, after watching the hand signals, nodded as if he understood. But then, to the utter shock of the worker on the third floor, the man on the ground proceeded to lower his trousers and started to jerk off. Frustrated and confused, the worker on the third floor rushed down to confront his co-worker. He burst out, "What are you doing? Are you out of your mind? I was trying to tell you that I needed a handsaw." The other worker, looking equally frustrated, replied, "I knew exactly what you were saying. I was just trying to signal back to you that I was coming." Three friends were on an adventure in Saudi Arabia. During their travels, they accidentally found themselves in a harem tent that was home to over 100 stunning women. They began to mingle and chat with the women, enjoying their company, when suddenly the sheikh, who was in charge of the harem, entered the tent. The sheikh was quite stern and said to the three friends, "I am the sole guardian and master of these women. No other man is allowed to interact with them in the way you have. You've broken our rules, and now you must face the consequences. Your punishment will be linked to the kind of work you do." He first approached the first man in the group and inquired about his profession. The man replied, "I work as a police officer." The sheikh, taking this into account, declared, "Since you're a police officer and work with guns, we will symbolically shoot off your manhood as a punishment." Next, the sheikh turned his attention to the second man and asked about his job. The man answered, "I'm a firefighter." The sheikh responded, "Well, in that case, since you deal with fire, we will burn off your manhood as your penalty." Finally, the sheikh looked at the third man, waiting to hear about his profession. The third man said, "I'm a lollipop salesman." In the glitzy world of Hollywood, a famous movie star decided to host a charity dinner, inviting a large crowd to participate. To add a twist to the event, the host declared it a costume party with a unique theme. Guests were to dress up to represent different emotions. On the night of the event, the first couple arrived at the door, donned entirely in blue outfits. The doorman, a bit puzzled, reminded them, "The theme tonight is to dress as an emotion." The couple quickly explained, "We chose to represent sadness, and that's why we're wearing blue." The doorman thought for a moment and then nodded, allowing them to enter. Not long after, another couple approached, this time dressed head to toe in red. The doorman, adhering to the theme, said, "Remember, tonight's about dressing as an emotion." The couple in red responded, "That's exactly what we did. We're dressed in red to symbolize anger." Plus, you allowed the couple in blue to enter. Realizing their interpretation fit the theme, the doorman let them in as well. Then the man arrived, standing out from the rest. He was completely naked except for a pier that had its core removed and his manhood stuck into it. The doorman, taken aback by the man's bold attire, said, "I'm sorry, but this doesn't seem to meet the dress code for tonight's event." The man replied, "Actually, I was indeed invited to this dinner." The doorman, so confused, said, "The requirement was to dress in a costume that represents a specific emotion." The man confidently stated, "And that's exactly what I've done. I'm deep in despair." There was once a ship captain who always carried a mysterious black box with him wherever he went. The crew was incredibly curious about the contents of the box, but no matter how many times they asked, the captain never revealed what was inside. This secrecy only fueled their curiosity, and over the years, the mystery of what was in that black box became a constant topic of discussion among the crew members. As time passed, the legend of the captain's black box grew. The crew speculated wildly about what it might contain. Some thought it held a secret treasure map, others believed it was a lucky charm, and a few even guessed it might be something supernatural. Then, one fateful day, a massive storm hit the ship. The sky darkened, the winds roared, and giant waves crashed against the ship, rocking it violently. Amidst the chaos of the storm, a particularly large wave swept over the deck, and in a tragic turn of events, the captain was swept overboard. Despite the crew's best efforts, he vanished into the raging sea, never to be seen again. Once the storm subsided and the sea calmed, the crew's thoughts immediately turned to the black box. Driven by years of curiosity and now the captain's mysterious disappearance, one of the sailors went to the captain's cabin and retrieved the box. The entire crew gathered around, their hearts racing with anticipation, as the sailor opened the box. Inside, they found just a single small piece of paper. The crew leaned in closer as the sailor unfolded the paper to reveal its contents. There, in simple writing, was the message: "Starboard is right, port is left." There was a man who was quite heavy-set and had been trying desperately to lose weight. He had attempted every diet plan he could find, from the well-known Scarsdale diet and the Navy diet to popular programs like Weight Watchers. Despite his best efforts, nothing seemed to work. One day, while reading the Washington Post, he came across a small advertisement that caught his eye. It read, "Lose weight effortlessly. Only $5 per pound." Intrigued and a bit hopeful, the man decided to give it a try and dialed the number. A voice answered and asked him, "How much weight are you aiming to lose?" The man replied, "I'd like to lose 10 pounds. The person on the other end said, "All right, provide your credit card information, and we'll send someone to your house tomorrow morning." The next morning, around 9 a.m., the man heard a knock on his door. To his surprise, there stood a stunning redhead, wearing nothing except a sign around her neck that read, "Catch me, and you can have me." The man, taken aback but motivated, started chasing her all over the house, upstairs, downstairs, through the living room, into the kitchen, everywhere. After a hectic and exhausting chase, he finally caught her. Afterward, she suggested he should check his weight. He rushed to the bathroom scale and discovered, to his astonishment, that he had indeed lost exactly 10 pounds. Feeling excited by his success, he called the number again in the evening. The same voice answered, "How much more weight do you want to lose?" This time, the man said, "I want to lose 20 pounds. "Okay," the voice agreed. "We'll send someone over in the morning." The next morning at about 8 a.m., he heard another knock. This time it was a gorgeous blonde, dressed only in running shoes, with a sign around her neck stating, "Catch me, and you can have me." The chase this time was longer and more exhausting, but eventually he caught her. He then rushed to the scale and found out he had lost another 20 pounds. Thrilled with these results, he decided to go for an even bigger goal. That evening, he called the number again and eagerly said, "I want to lose 50 pounds. The voice on the other end cautioned, "That's a lot to lose at once," but after taking his credit card information, they agreed to send someone over. The next morning, the man got up early, getting ready for his biggest challenge yet. At 7 a.m., there was a knock on the door. When he opened it, he was shocked to see a masked gorilla with a sign around its neck. The sign read, "If I catch you, I can have you."